Hello friends, it's me. So I'm in a Discord server called the Pokemon Fight Club. It's a pretty cool server, there's some chill people. Link in the description. So recently I participated in their tournament, and the rules were quite interesting. We were to battle in the AG Anything Goes format. We were only allowed one restricted legendary from this list, and Dynamaxing was banned. I did participate in this tournament, and I was also in charge of chronicling everything for your viewing pleasure. So please, enjoy watching the battles and my commentary. See ya! Our first battle opens between Drakensag and Kupo. Kupo has a Rain team, and Drakensag has a Baton Pass Mega Rayquaza team. So Pelipper starts out, U-turns out on the Grimmsnarl's light screen, and the Grimmsnarl reflects as Tornadus also uses Knockoff. Now, the Tornadus is going to switch out for Ferrothorn, as the Grimmsnarl uses Spirit Break. The Ferrothorn is going to get taunted, meaning the Leech Seed will fail. Now, the Ninja switches in just as the Quagsire switches in. Now, if you know anything about Quagsire, you'll know that it has an ability called Unaware, which means it ignores every single stat boost that the opponent has. This means that coupled with defense boosting moves such as Curse, or in this case, Stockpile, it becomes quite unkillable, as you can see. A 4x attack Rayquaza spamming Dragon Ascent is unable to break it much. Grimmsnarl is unable to do anything with Spirit Break either. The Ninjask desperately tries to set up Sword Stances again in order to pass to the Galarian Slowbro. Unfortunately, it too is helpless. The Quagsire now has won the game. All it really needs to do is just click Toxic and Scald and recover. And that's what it does. This will be the only instance of me speeding up the battles in this video, so don't worry about this happening anymore. Even with the critical hit, the Slowbro is only able to do 20% to the Quagsire. And like that, Alira takes the win. The next battle starts and it's between Pugs and Fakerman. Tyranitar switches into the Mienshau's Fake Out. Mienshao uses High Jump Kick into Tyranitar, but misses and goes down to Tyranitar's Earthquake. Galarian Darmanitan comes in, and Garchomp switches in to a Superpower. Darmanitan uses Superpower again to finish off Garchomp. Dracovish switches in now, as Dragapult switches into a Vicious Rend. Tyranitar switches into the Dragon Darts. Dragapult goes for a Steel Wing, taking the Tyranitar down to 21% health. The Tyranitar's Iron Head almost takes out the Dragapult after sand damage. Dragapult U-turns out, saving it from the final bit of sand chip damage it needs to go down. Crocodile comes out and uses Earthquake, 4x super effective on that stack attacker. Excadrill comes out and uses Rock Blast, which is not very effective and does very little to the Crocodile. Crocodile meanwhile takes out Excadrill with an Earthquake and keeps gaining attack boost through the Moxie ability. Dracovish switches into an Earthquake and goes down in one hit. Genesect switches in and also takes a full one-hit KO from that Earthquake. And finally, Tyranitar comes back in to be finished off by a +4 Earthquake. And that's the game. The first battle of round 2 starts, and it's between Pugs and VZ Metalhead. Pug sends in his Mienshao again and fake outs the Shuckle, which has a Rocky Helmet and damages the Mienshao. Mienshao goes for a High Jump Kick into the Shuckle, while the Shuckle goes for Sticky Web. Mienshao then finishes off the Shuckle with High Jump Kick once again. Togekiss comes in, and Mienshao does a chunk with Poison Jab and poisons it, but it goes down to an Air Slash. Togekiss eats its berry and restores a lot of health. Landorus Incarnate's Sludge Bomb takes out the Togekiss, as Dracovish switches in. Dracovish takes 91% from an Earth Power, but does manage to take out the Landorus with Vicious Rend. The Dracovish also one-hit KOs the Slowking with Vicious Rend as the Dragapult switches in, taking 99% and living on its sash from the Vicious Rend. The Dragon Darts does manage to take out the Dragon Darts from Dragapult does manage to take out the Dracovish. However, it goes down to the Cinderace's Sucker Punch next. Crocodile comes in and goes down to a high jump kick from the Cinderace. And finally, Galarian Darmanitan switches in. And the Cinderace does miss the high jump kick and lose half its health, and goes down to Galarian Darmanitan's superpower. Blaziken comes in and is able to take the superpower and take out the Galarian Darmanitan with a close combat. The next battle is between Drakensag and Alurosa. Drakensag and Alurosa both send out Grimmsnarl, and hilariously they both try to taunt each other, not remembering that dark types are immune to Prankster after Generation 7. They both use Reflect, and then Light Screen. Ninjask switches in for Drakensag's side and takes a Play Rough, lowering its attack. Ninjask protects itself as the Grimmsnarl uses Taunt. Ninjask gets a speed boost from its speed boost ability. Ninjask is unable to Baton Pass after Grimmsnarl's Prankster ability taunts it. The Slowbro takes a tiny bit of damage after switching into a Play Rough, and then gets taunted and is unable to use Belly Drum. Rillaboom comes in on Alurosa's side and takes a Shell Sidearm. It's super effective, but through the screens it doesn't do that much. Ninjask switches into the Rillaboom and takes Drum Beating, which is a Grass-type move that's Rillaboom's signature move, and lowers its speed. Ninjask protects itself and gets the speed back. Then Jirachi switches into the Rillaboom, takes another Drum Beating, and goes down to 64%. Corviknight switches into the Jirachi as the Jirachi clicks Cosmic Power. Jirachi clicks Cosmic Power again as the Corviknight uses Body Press, doing very little damage. The Grimmsnarl switches into Jirachi, likely taunting. The Grimmsnarl actually goes for Light Screen, as Jirachi Drain Punches it for very little damage. Grimmsnarl then taunts the Jirachi, as Jirachi goes for Ancient Power. Grimmsnarl goes for a Reflect, as Jirachi just keeps fishing for the Ancient Power Omni boost. Rillaboom uses Darkest Lariat into the Jirachi and takes it out, because a little-known effect of Darkest Lariat is that it's a move that ignores stat changes, so that completely ignored the Jirachi's defense boost. Blaziken tries to protect but fails because Volcanion switches in. It gets a speed boost and a Swords Dance boost before getting taken down to its sash. Then, the Blaziken protects for another speed boost. The Blaziken then Baton Passes the boost to the Rayquaza, which now has +3 speed and +2 attack. It switches into an Earth Power, taking very little damage, exactly 0. Corviknight switches into the Dragon Ascent from Rayquaza. Rayquaza just continues to Dragon Ascent into the Corviknight, and takes the defense drops and the Rocky Helmet damage. Finally, another Dragon Ascent takes out the Corviknight, but leaves Rayquaza on low health and with lowered defenses. Grimmsnarl switches in and goes down to a Dragon Ascent even after the Reflect. Slurpuff switches in and also takes 100% damage from that Dragon Ascent. This Rayquaza is impressive. Volcanion switches in as Rayquaza switches out. And Grimmsnarl switches into a Sludge Bomb and gets poisoned. The Grimmsnarl sets up a Reflect, as Volcanion finishes it off with Sludge Bomb. Blaziken switches in to get a speed boost by protecting. Then it Baton Passes the speed boost to the Slowbro, and the Slowbro takes a Sludge Bomb for very little damage. It takes an Earth Power which does just enough damage to prevent it from using Belly Drum. Then the Slowbro's Quick Claw activates, and the Shell Sidearm damages Volcanion, but not before it gets taken out by Earth Power. Then Rayquaza switches in, and the Earthquake crits the Volcanion and takes it out in one hit. Landorus Therian switches in and intimidates the Rayquaza, as Blaziken switches into its Toxic. Blaziken fire punches the Landorus, doing 1/4 damage, and the Landorus sets up Stealth Rock. Both Ninjask and Rayquaza are low enough that the Stealth Rock finish them off, and Alurosa takes the win in this battle. The last battle of round 3 starts, and it's between me and Not Eminem. I send out my Shuckle as he sends out his Shift Tree. I set up Stealth Rock as he gets phased out by the red card. I send in my Kartana, expecting to defog the Skarmory Stealth Rock, but instead it goes for Whirlwind, and brings in my Victini. My Victini goes for Bolt Strike and is able to 2H KO the Skarmory after the Leaf Armor drop. Cloyster comes in and takes Stealth Rock damage, and is low enough that it can't Shell Smash safely. It goes for Rock Blast on my Victini without Shell Smashing, and takes a Bolt Strike in the process. Dragapult switches in and takes 24% from a resisted Bolt Strike, but as my Victini is Scarf, I switch it out. Shuckle takes a Draco Meteor from the Dragapult, and then lives on 1 HP on the Dragon Pulse, and is able to leave the Sticky Web down on his team. I switch in Scolipede, and Protect to scout the move. Then I realize that the Dragapult has Fire Blast, and my Scolipede is not safe at all. I decide to substitute, and hope that he misses the Fire Blast, and then I remember Dragapult has Infiltrator, and it could bypass my substitute. Then I remember that my Kartana Sash is broken, so I switch Groudon in instead. Unfortunately, my Groudon then gets burned by the next Fire Blast, which cuts its damage output in half. Then, the critical hit on the next Draco Meteor means it's much more powerful than I expected it to be, because the crit ignored the special attack drops. I do get to bring in Victini, however, and it does take out the Dragapult. However, the situation's very bad now, because my Scarf Victini, even though it's able to do massive damage to this Victini, I've lost my Groudon, my Restricted, and I've lost my Scolipede, my main source of boosting. So I bring out my Dragonite and Extreme Speed to take out the Victini. Then Manectric comes out, so I Earthquake as it Volt switches into the Shift Tree. The Shift Tree takes limited damage from the Earthquake. However, now it's in dual Wing Beat range. It goes for Solar Beam, and is faster than my Dragonite because of its Chlorophyll ability activated by the sun. Manectric comes back in, and Volt switches out again for Cloyster. Oh sorry, no, I forgot. It actually overheats into my Dragonite as I go for Earthquake. Then Cloyster goes down to the Stealth Rock chip, and I win the battle. The next battle is between Quick Claw McGraw and VZ Metalhead, and is the first battle of round 3. They start off with Slowbro Galar and with Shuckle. Side Shell Arm into the Shuckle does very little damage as it sets up Sticky Web. Then Liquidation does 40% to the Shuckle and takes Rocky Helmet Chip. The Shuckle sets up Stealth Rock. Liquidation barely misses the KO on the Shuckle, and the Shuckle is revealed to be contrary, as its defense is actually boosted by the Liquidation. Shuckle finally goes down after several liquidations. Quick Draw activates, and the Slowbro is able to get a Shell Sidearm off before the Dracovish takes it out with Vicious Red. Then Rillaboom enters. Melmetal switches in, as Rillaboom goes for Grassy Glide. Rillaboom goes for Drain Punch, doing surprisingly little because of Melmetal's great physical defense, as Double Iron Bash nearly takes out the Rillaboom. Urshifu Rapid Strike switches into the Melmetal, and takes a sizable chunk from the Double Iron Bash. The Urshifu goes for Drain Punch, which does 52% to the Melmetal, as Thunder Punch nearly takes it out once again. Togekiss switches into the Urshifu into a Drain Punch, which is 4 times resisted. Galarian Darmanitan switches into the Togekiss, and is targeted by an Air Slash. Icicle Crash ends up taking out the Togekiss. Cinderace switches in now, and the Sucker Punch finishes off the Darmanitan. Urshifu switches into the Cinderace, but takes a Sucker Punch. However, it is able to get Surging Strikes off, but unfortunately it is not able to take out the Cinderace. Primarina switches into the Sucker Punch and takes nothing. Oh no, sorry, it actually switches into a High Jump Kick, never mind. The Cinderace goes for Iron Head and flinches the Primarina, and then finishes it off with Sucker Punch. Rillaboom switches into the Cinderace and is on dangerously low health. However, Sucker Punch fails because the Rillaboom used Bulk Up. Now the Cinderace uses Pyro Ball and finishes off the Rillaboom. Jirachi switches in, and then it takes all of its health from fire. Sorry, it loses all its health to Pyro Ball. Urshifu switches in and is on 8% and is easily finished off by the Sucker Punch. Round 3. Me versus Alirosa. I start off with my Kartana, and Alirosa leads off with Landorus. I switch my Shuckle into the Stealth Rock, and then I switch back to my Kartana to defog the rocks, as Landorus tries to Toxic. Corviknight switches in, and I defog the rocks. Shuckle switches in, as Alirosa goes to the Landorus. My Shuckle tries to Encore, but it fails because the Landorus switched out. Corviknight uses Body Press and gets phased by the red card. I set up Stealth Rock with my Shuckle. I go to Kartana, expecting the Corviknight switch in, but instead Landorus uses Toxic. I decide to damage the Landorus with Leaf Blade, and it does its decent chunk. Landorus U-turns out to the Corviknight. I Sacred Sword into the Corviknight, doing only 24% and taking Rocky Helmet chip damage, as the Corviknight defogs my rocks. I decide that I have to switch out my strategy, so I switch my Scolipede into the Corviknight. Landorus switches in, intimidating my Scolipede as I Sword Stance, giving me a net +1 attack boost and a +1 speed boost. Corviknight switches in as I Sword Stance. I decide it's safe to Sword Stance again as Landorus switches in. I Baton Pass, never mind. I go to Groudon, and the Groudon Heat Crashes and takes out the Landorus. Volcanion switches in, and I Earthquake as they go to Corviknight. I assume they were trying to stall out my Sun with some pivoting, and I think it kind of worked. So now I try to Heat Crash into the Corviknight, but it takes it very well. I decide to Rock Slide into the Volcanion because that would take it out and it would hit the Corviknight. Grimmsnarl comes out, and it uses Reflect, as I use a Steel-type move called Heavy Slam that does a ton of damage. Corviknight switches into another Heavy Slam. Then I go for Heat Crash. Heat Crash, boosted by the Sun, takes Corviknight down to 71%, as it roosts up. I use Rock Slide on the Corviknight, hoping for a flinch, and it uses Brave Bird. However, the Brave Bird recoil is what allows it to get into... the Brave Bird recoil allows it to get into my Heat Crash range. I stay in with Groudon expecting Grassy Glide, but apparently this Rillaboom doesn't have it. It goes for Darkest Lariat as my Groudon hangs on, and finishes it off with another Heat Crash. Slurpuff comes out, and I'm scared that this thing is going to Belly Drum, so I go for the super effective Heavy Slam, and manage to successfully keep it out of Belly Drum range. Then it's easily finished off with another Heavy Slam. After that, all is left is the Grimmsnarl, which I finish off with Heavy Slam. Round 4. Finals. Me versus VZ Metalhead. I go for Kartana, and he goes for Shuckle. I go for the Smart Strike into the Shuckle, which has a Rocky Helmet and damages me, and sets up Sticky Web. I go for the Smart Strike and finish off the Shuckle. Cinderace switches in, so I switch out my Kartana into my own Shuckle. The Pyro Ball hits Shuckle and phases out via red card. The Togekiss goes for Nasty Plot, as I hit the Stealth Rock. The Air Slash flinches my Shuckle, and I'm unable to use Final Gambit. I switch to my Groudon, which is able to take 1 or 2 Air Slashes. Unfortunately, this Air Slash flinches my Groudon, and it's unable to do anything, and goes down. I go to my Scolipede and do what it does best. Boost. I protect to undo the Sticky Web speed drop. I go for the Swords Dance, as Togekiss takes me down to my sash with the Air Slash. I protect again to get the final speed boost. I then baton pass these boosts to my Dragonite. Now, I just need to hit a dual Wing Beat, and this Togekiss will go down, and I'll have a chance at winning this game. Not so. Togekiss finishes me off with Dazzling Gleam. I go back to Scolipede and protect. Then I decide my only win condition here is to hope that the Togekiss misses an Air Slash as I Swords Dance. This does not happen. I go to Victini, and I go for the Bolt Strike into the Togekiss, which I probably should have done earlier. I finish the Togekiss off with another Bolt Strike. The Cinderace finishes me off with Sucker Punch, and now I realize the damage to my team was irreparable. The Cinderace finishes me off with Pyro Ball, and I lose the game. Now, I would be tempted to complain about the RNG here, and true, I did get flinched many times. However, I could have played better. I could have defogged the webs away from the Shuckle. I could have just started off with Victini to take out the Togekiss earlier. But that's life, and GG to VZ Metalhead for winning the finals. You thought it was over, didn't you? No, there was actually a secret extra battle for the champion, so I'll cover that now. So, Bongwater versus VZ Metalhead. Let's go. So, he starts off with his Kyogre, as VZ starts off with his Shuckle. Kyogre goes for Thunder, taking away a quarter of Shuckle's health and paralyzing it. Kyogre uses Scald and finishes off the Shuckle as it sets up Sticky Web. Melmetal comes in as Kyogre protects. Melmetal's Quick Claw activates and Thunder Punches the Kyogre, as it uses Scald and takes away a chunk of Melmetal's health. Toxapex switches in and takes a Thunder Punch from Melmetal. Melmetal uses High Horsepower and finishes off the Toxapex. Kingdra comes in. Scald finishes off the Melmetal. Togekiss comes in and takes a huge chunk from the Kingdra's Scald, but recovers it with its Aqua Berry. It goes for Nasty Plot, as the rain wears off. Yveltal comes in and switches into a Dazzling Gleam, immediately getting one-hit KO'd, as Kyogre switches in. The rain is set back up. The Air Slash finishes the Kyogre. Kingdra comes in, and Scald finishes off the Togekiss. Dracovish comes in, and Kingdra uses Scald. It then goes for Outrage into the Kingdra, finishing it off. Urshifu uses Detect and protects itself, likely to stall out Outrage turns. However, the Dracovish does not get confused after 2 turns, as Urshifu uses Bulk Up. The Dracovish hits the Outrage one last time, finishing off Urshifu. Dragonite switches in, and takes an Outrage with its Multiscale ability, activating its Weakness Policy, and as it uses Agility to boost its speed. Dragon Tail finishes off the Dracovish. Then Cinderace comes in and finishes off Dragonite with a Sucker Punch, and VZ Metalhead wins the final battle. Hi again. So thank you so very much for watching this video all the way through, if you did, and I hope you enjoyed my commentary and dramatic readings of how the tournament played out. Thank you for the Pokemon Fight Club for hosting this tournament. Please check out their Discord below, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.